Hey everyone, how are you doing? I'm briefly interrupting the intro just to update you on a brief bit of housekeeping to do with this podcast and the next couple. I had to change how I made this, partly because my recording stopped halfway through and I wasn't aware until I was editing it, and I'm having slight microphone difficulties, and two, because the episode was going to be very long as well, actually, anyway. So I've changed how I'm making this podcast. This week is going to be daily habits and practices that I have done before. Next week will be me reading through a morning routine, a piece that I'd written, and there will be an accompanying exercise and practice that's about 5 or 10 minutes long after that, which I'm sure I will talk about more in this episode or the next one. I had to make a few slight edits, but there may well be reference to things I do in this podcast that I don't do because of the things I just said. So I hope that clears up any potential problems and, well, just enjoy the words. Most of the words are great, so listen to them right now. Hello, and welcome to this, the Savage Balance Podcast. Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode number 23 of the Savage Balance Podcast. How you all doing, guys? How are you all doing, folks, chums, buddies of mine? I hope you're well, and if you're not well, I hope you're coping and living authentically with the not being well and not pushing it away, being okay with not being okay for the time being. I'm okay. I'm trying to be okay, at least, with the not being okay. I've just, not too long ago, had a first therapy session, which I hope will be the first of opening myself up to more things that I need to be open up to more. Anyway, this is something that put me in mind for what I wanted to discuss on this week's podcast. But just before I get to that, I want to thank the very lovely, beautiful, heartfelt, and short but sweet messages that I have received from people in the last few weeks about the stuff that I'm doing. I've had some very nice words of encouragement and compliments, and I'm pleased that there are people listening to this, and I'm pleased that there are people getting something out of it. So thank you very much, every single one I've received, which isn't many, but the fact that they are there and unprompted is like genuinely really meaningful. So yeah, thank you very much for those messages. I really appreciate them. But let's jump into today's topic, shall we? Today I wanted to discuss, well, as I say, I've recently had my first therapy session, and I am thinking back to times before in my life. I felt in a really good, strong, stable place, I'd say a good year and a half ago, for quite a long time, like in a way that I'd never been before. The things that I got interested in, the things I fell into, and the things that I was repeating and practicing. And a lot of those things through the pandemic and also just a bit before then, through various different reasons, physical reasons with my leg and mental reasons and time, all of these sorts of things snuck in and crept around, and not dealing with things properly just started to sort of chip away the daily habits that I was doing, and to the point now where I'm not really practicing anything consistently and effectively, and I can feel it. I can feel the difference in my mental health. I can feel the difference in my mood. I can feel the difference in how I deal with emotions as they come up and arise. And so, as much as this is a podcast for everybody else, this is a podcast for me, because it's all about me. This is, I'm going to really, I've been compiling a list and revisiting, trying to remember all the daily habits I've had through the times. When I say daily habits, maybe not all of them were specifically daily. This is something I will briefly get onto in a short while. But yeah, they're just things that helped in different ways ground me. It helped me have something to start the day off in a positive way. And I wanted to share them with you. I wanted to share what experience I had going through them. And then towards the end of the podcast, I'm going to read something I've written before that's a little bit cheeky and a little bit fun, but sort of goes in depth into one aspect and one specific kind of routine that I had that was very effective. And then afterwards, there's going to be a separate extra podcast as well that is like a shorter version of that for people as a kind of exercise to go through. I will talk about that more in detail when I get to that part. But let's start from the beginning. Daily habits. You can call them daily habits if you want. You can call them rituals. You can call them routines. I personally prefer practices because that is the idea that a lot of these things that we maybe feel we should take for granted, like our emotions just happen and we just experience our emotions and daily life just happens, that the more I discover things, the more I realize that I think they can be practices that we can treat them and we can manipulate and we can mold and we can alter ourselves. Like the things that we might think are fundamental to our personality, they are changeable, they are shiftable. And I don't just mean, some people could talk about it in a more spiritual sense, but you can talk about it in a very scientific sense as well, with neuroplasticity and the brain actually forming and changing. And, that it is that at any age you are open to change. I fundamentally believe that to be true, that people sometimes say that's John, he's just Dick, or that's Philip, he's just, he's always been angry. Or that's Mary, she's always been, shitty to puppies. And you think, well, maybe Mary doesn't always have to be shitty to puppies. Maybe she can learn how to not be shitty to puppies. I think that is something we all have the potential to achieve. And daily habits is one way, or daily practice is one way to achieve that. So before I get into them, I'd want to briefly talk about some of the benefits that you can get from having a daily practice. Just briefly, though, first of all, it can help calm the subconscious. It can help with that. A lot of people experience that inner dialogue and such like that, and it can help calm it down, but it can help you reframe it as well and see it from a distance and change the relationship that you have with it and with all the different practices you can do. It also sets a precedence for your day, especially if you do this in the morning, or if you do this, if you do it in the morning, it can help set you up to tackle the challenges that may come with that day. Or if you, do it in the evening, it may help you with the challenges that you may face, sleeping or relaxing in the evenings or switching off from work. It begins to set a precedence for how you live beyond that time, and it seeps in throughout the day. Even a small amount can be really effective, which I'll talk about in a second. I think a really good thing as well is that it sort of stops that automatic mode and allows us space to respond. A lot of the times I've been feeling it more recently. This is one thing I've felt it more predominantly than usual, is if I am stressed or angry, I just feel completely awash with it. I just exist within it, and I'm just feeling that rage, and it's just within me. And I would describe it then as I am angry. I am angry right now. Whereas with a daily practice before, especially ones that would help with that emotional well-being, that when that feeling would come up, because emotions do come up some moments, there isn't such a thing, I think, as a negative emotion. Emotions are all there for a specific reason. They're all there to tell you a message. Maybe you're happy and the message is, hey, everything's going great. More of this, please. Maybe you're angry and it's something needs to change right now. Same with sadness or same with jealousy. There's something that needs addressing. Anxiety, maybe it's something we need to back away from. And I guess it's trying to learn to balance a stable amount, or an amount that is healthy is an amount that doesn't become like the main predominant feeling in your life. Like anxiety is okay to feel and sadness is okay to feel. But if they are sort of a very predominant feeling within your life and you feel like you are sad or anxious all the time, then those are the things that need addressing. The actual anxiety or the sadness itself inherently isn't the bad thing. It is maybe the level that it is felt, like, or the extremity that it is being felt, or the amount that it is being felt. These are the things that need addressing more, because you can't live a life without anxiety or without sadness or without anger. But you can have a different relationship to them. That's something that you can have. So I like the fact that having a daily practice, can stop that automatic mode and response of just living in that anger and saying, I am angry. Instead, the things like that would give me space. So when an anger came up, I would be able to, understand and reframe it. So it's not I am angry, it's I am experiencing anger. And I understand also that the experience will pass. And I also want to be open to whatever the message is, whether it is masking some other kind of, envy or frustration or embarrassment, but sometimes, and whether there's another way to address that, or whether it's something that needs to change in my environment. You know what I mean? There's a better way of processing it. So that's one another way I've found having a daily practice can really help. I also feel like in our society, a lot of how we're framed to think is to be very focused on the destination. As in, to be a success, you have to have the high-powered job and you have to have the car and you have to have the thing. And the role is to get there. And then when you're there, that's where the happiness is. Whereas having a daily practice is a really good way to remind you that I think it's the journey and it's the actual steps of the marathon. Like running a marathon is not so much about having completed the marathon and, just saying I was still, then I ran and then I completed it. More, it's like every step is part of that journey. This step, left, right. Mile 18, when things get really difficult, where are you finding that resource to keep going left, right? Making sure that we're focusing not purely on the destination, but experiencing the here and now, the journey as it happens. My favorite thing I've heard about meditation is not so much, people think, to get a calm, peaceful mind with no voices or no movement in there, you're like calm and peaceful, which isn't achievable in meditation. The moment in meditation when the magic is happening is the moment you are distracted. So you are distracted. It is the moment when you return to the breath, like when you return to that concentration, or you return to, wherever you're putting that feeling. That is the moment in which the magic is happening. It's not the sitting and being focused on the breath so much as the returning from being distracted, as in the distraction is maybe always inevitable. And the more you practice it, the less distraction you'll feel, to maybe you can get to a point of enlightenment maybe. But it's about the journey. It's about, having that moment and the returning to it and what it can, the point of meditation, or at least one of the points in the Western world is to be more present and calm and be able to just notice things as they are there in front of you and not be distant from them or mindlessly somewhere else. So I like that idea of going away from destination and focusing more on journey. Those are just a few of the benefits that I can think of as well. And before I talk about these things, there might be two things that pique your interest and you think maybe I would like to try that. So if those things do happen, here's a couple of tips. Here's a couple of tips on how to incorporate them into your life, really, in a way. Keep it simple, I would say, first of all. Keep it simple and keep it manageable. I think I've heard somebody say we often overestimate what we can do in the short term, but underestimate what we can do in the long term. I think emphasizing the power of small, short steps. And you want to keep it manageable, because if it's not manageable, how can you sustain something that isn't manageable? That can't happen. Like, that sentence makes sense in that way. You can't sustain something that's unmanageable. like that. It's in the sentence there. Like you can't. That's it. There's nothing else to add to that sentence. That's all in itself. So keeping it simple will, help you stay motivated with it, to help you stay interested in it, and not make it become a job or a chore, because you don't want it to become a job or a chore. It's always a choice. This is all like it's always a choice to do these things. So why not choose joy and fun and or something meaningful and authentic in that sense. So keep it simple is a good bit of advice, I think. Rangan Chatterjee talks about this a lot, and maybe I will link in the show notes to some of the things that he has talked about with habit setting before. But he has said, from the research he's spent, especially with somebody called BJ Fogg, Fogg has 2 Gs, who is a sort of expert in habit building, to basically make it effortless. Like, if it is hard, the harder it is, the more likely you are to fail. And if it is hard, then you will fail, because it's like you have to then put in a lot of extra energy and determination. And maybe some people have that access within them, but most of us don't have that level of drive personally within us. And even with that level of drive, there can be other consequences to that level of drive. So, keep making it effortless. An example of that might be like if you're attaching it to something else, if you're writing or something like that, if it's journaling, for example, keep the journal out where it's easy to use and where you are likely to use it, and in a place that's going to trigger you to use it. Like, have it on a desk in the morning, or have it right next to your bed for when you wake up, or on your nightstand if that's where you go to sleep, or like with your toothbrush if you're going to brush your teeth. Have it in a really easy, accessible place that's going to trigger, oh yeah, that thing there. Make it as simple and easy as possible. If you want to go to the gym or something, maybe have everything packed beforehand. When I have my breakfast in the morning, when I go to work, I leave the cup out on the side and I make the porridge to take to work that day, so that I'm in that pattern now, and I try to leave everything out as much as possible, and I pack all the clothes the night before, and I get my bike stuff ready, and my shoes are even off the shoe rack and by the back door there. I make those steps easy for myself. So try to make it effortless for yourself. Consistency is a good thing. The more consistent you are is important, but a really big but. Don't stress yourself out about it. Don't try to take on too much. If you want to be consistent, you go I'm going to do this every day. Maybe that won't be so easy straight away. If you want to make it effortless, maybe the consistency is 4 times a week or 5 times a week, something that works for you there. A little bit of leeway to go. And even if you fall under that bar at that point, it's okay. There's always tomorrow. There's always right now sometimes as well, unless you're if you've just remembered and you're in the middle of the board meeting, probably not the best time to get your yoga mat out and start, getting into crow. But, it's if you can practice it right then and there when you remember it, you can do it right then and there in the moment. And if you missed it that day, that's okay. There's always tomorrow. There's tomorrow's coming, and you can practice it then. Kindness to yourself is a big part of it, Not going, fucking hell, I forgot to do some fucking gratitude. I forgot to be grateful for shit, for fuck's sakes. That's going against what the practice is. Kindness is a key part of it. So, if you missed a day, that's okay. Maybe you can catch it tomorrow. Maybe you get back on that headspace tomorrow. So consistency is important, but don't take on too much stress about making that consistency flawless. It's okay. You're a human being. You are fallible. We are all flawed in our ways. It's okay. And there's always tomorrow. A good practical tip is to connect it with an existing habit. For example, if you want to do some journaling and you need the pen and notepad and you want to do it in the morning when you wake up, maybe, if you have a cup of coffee or tea in the morning when you first wake up, maybe leave the pad by the coffee or the tea, in with the cups or by the kettle. So it's there. You already have that habit to click. A good example of this is teeth brushing. We all basically automatically brush our teeth twice a day because it's what we've been taught. And it's just a habit that plays out. maybe build it onto that in some way. You brush your teeth in the morning. Oh yeah, like the mats there, the yoga mats there, I can, just outside that room, I can do the yoga thing right after this. Or the, I don't know, the cup is there and I wanted that 5 minutes of mindful drinking of this tea. So, make those steps easy for yourself and connect it to an existing habit as a trigger to remember to do these things. Designing your environment as well is very similar to that. Maybe already having, a yoga mat on the floor, the pad by the kettle, maybe like dumbbells or something, if you wanted a daily practice of like lifting weights, having it in the kitchen already can really help you out with that stuff. So designing your environment and connecting it to an existing habit, those two things together can be really helpful. And I guess finally, again, just to really emphasize, just don't be hard on yourself. You're doing this, out of the love and the kindness for yourself. You're doing this because you want to improve the quality of your life. And where does anger sit into that? Where does frustration with yourself sit into that? Where does, emphasizing those elements of low self-esteem, where do they fit into that? They can't, they don't go along hand in hand, side by side. So part of the practice is maybe doing this specific thing, but maybe it comes as well with the day you miss it or the day you can't turn up the way you would before. That's okay. That's okay. It's all okay. The fact that you're there, the fact that you remembered it is a great sign. The fact that you're still here, you can still practice it, So don't be hard on yourself. It's all okay. It's all good. I've talked about those a lot longer than I thought I would. Well, I don't know if this is going to be a long episode or a short one. We will simply have to see what happens. But cool, let's start talking about it. Let's start talking about some of the habits that I have had in the past, or I prefer to call them practices, daily practices that I have had that have had really good impacts on my life. So number one is water. Very simple habit. My brother actually told me this. He said that, you go to sleep, you sleep through the night, you are dehydrated, just drink a pint of water in the morning. And that's something I did for a long time. I had the cup there, I had the glass, and you just, as soon as you wake up, it felt a bit uncomfortable at first sometimes, and it was a lot of small sips, but it genuinely, just that small an action helped set me up for the day. I felt really good, felt revitalized, felt refreshed. All I'd done is just replenish my body, having, got a little bit dehydrated through the night. But it really helps. And sometimes I think people do struggle to know when to drink. I don't think it's uncommon this day and age to not necessarily know when to drink and stuff. So just starting off with that in the day can really help. It also, helps flush out shit through you. It helps flush out the shit through you. So just a pint of water in the morning, really genuinely effective. There's another practice as well called RAIN, which I talked about a few episodes ago on how to build resilience. So if you want to hear more, you can listen to it there. But this isn't no, it was a practice for a while. It was something I did daily, or a daily-ish, like the intention to be daily, to understand myself more and how I was feeling. But RAIN, for those who don't know, is an acronym. And Tara Brach is a meditation teacher, talks about this, and so does Sharon Salzberg. I really like them both, and they both have different words and sort of slight interpretations. My interpretation of it is R is recognize, A, allow, I, investigate, and N, nurture. So R, recognize what you are feeling right now. Just sit in how you're feeling. Let it be expressed internally, at least, unstopped, non-stopped. Let it be all felt. I can't think of the what word. What word is Ben thinking of? I can't remember what word I'm thinking of. Just don't block it. Basically, let the feeling fully express itself internally, and I mean internally because if it's like you're feeling rage and anger, don't start throwing a laptop around the room and, punching your best friend in the knees. Just just let it express, just let it feel in the body, like let it be, it's okay, let it be fully expressed, fully felt. You feel it in the heart, you feel it in the stomach, you feel it in the arms, you feel it in the legs, you feel it in the neck, you feel it in the head, you feel it in the teeth, are you gritting your teeth, like where are you feeling it? Is there tension? Is there a lack of tension? Is it floatiness? Is it heavy? Is it light? All of those sorts of things, just let it be there. So recognize those feelings are there. In fact, what I should have done is slightly wrong. That is more allow. So recognize is just recognize that you're having those feelings right now. And then allow is allow all of those feelings to come out in that sense. I investigate, sit with it and let it just explore what that feeling is. If it's anger and if it's a pit in the stomach, maybe you might, start to feel that it's actually like masking a bit of embarrassment or a bit of shyness, timidness, or maybe you're, upset by something somebody said, so you're actually depressed or sad, or you feel let down, or you're actually, bemused by something. If you're jealous about something, is that jealous actually envy? Like, do you want to be that person, or are you just feeling that? Or again, is that some kind of sadness of a life that you thought you could have, or is it, and if, all of these sorts of things, the more you investigate it, the more you can pinpoint what the specific things are feeling, as opposed to, I guess it's the difference between, I don't know, a gas turning into a liquid, turning into a solid. Like if it's a gas, it's just a haze of badness. And then the haze of badness and the liquid is like, oh, okay, there's a stream of clear liquid, this water, and that's brown liquid, which is probably the thing that's the bad thing. But then you can separate it. And then when it's solid, it's like lots of blocks of like, oh, okay, so my anger, my bad feeling was actually like anger and then resentment, but also like depression and feeling quite anxious as well. Like the more you're in, and then N for nurture is like you can nurture those feelings. It's okay. It's okay to be feeling those things. It's good to be feeling those things. It's good. And you can take the lessons from those things. So that was something I practiced for a while. Rain, once again, R, recognize, A, allow, I, investigate, and N, nurture. The third one, I won't go into too much detail about because people know about this, don't they? Have you heard of this thing? It's called meditation. I don't know if you've heard of this thing. Meditation is what it's called, and it's like done by like all these Buddhists and that, but it's like done by like just people as well, not just like monks. It's also done by like just like your neighbors or whatever. They just do it. I don't know if you heard of it. Meditation and mindfulness. I've done various different ones that can be more spiritual and ethereal, and ones are a lot more practical and maybe, have a scientific edge to them, and different kind of creative ones as well. I've tried lots of different types and I find it really useful and beneficial and grounding. And when I really get into that pattern, it's really useful. But maybe you should have a little Google search, go onto google.com and type in English Google, and that will take you to a site called google.co.uk. And when you're on that, click on the search engine button. And if you type in meditation and then press enter, it will give you information and lots of different informations through a variety of links about what meditation could be and where it is and how you can access it and what it is and how you can spend a ton of money on it, even though it's really a free practice. So, meditation, you know about that, don't you? The next two is something I'm going to get onto later, but I'll briefly mention it now because I did them separately. Like intention setting was a good one. It sort of applies a little bit to rain, as in I was just sitting and understanding how I was feeling. And when I understood how I was feeling, I was setting intentions for the day, like kindness or, patience, things like that. But I will talk about that a lot more in detail, as I will also talk about gratitude as well. But I did want to mention it here a bit briefly because people see gratitude not as a feeling as opposed to a practice, and I see it more as a practice. But I wanted to mention it here because one of the methods in which I had, like I've spoken it before, sometimes just thinking it or speaking it, or like going, I'm grateful for the trees and I'm grateful for the walls that keep me safe, and I'm grateful for, my partner, and I'm grateful for my family. You can say that, or you can write it down. Sometimes the act of actual writing it down, and I've done both of those things, and they have they're different practices slightly, but they both have like their part to play. So there's lots of different ways you can practice gratitude, but I had a little gratitude notebook at one point. I still have it, and it's still there on the day that I stopped it, and I still intend to pick it up again one day. But it really helped me. It was only a 5-minute practice. A lot of these things were very short. They are meditation's probably the longest ones. A period, and I was doing about 15 minutes. Sometimes I'd occasionally do 20 minutes, but that was no longer than 10 minutes most of the time. So most of these things are around 5 minutes or maybe less. But they're really helpful and useful. Another one that was good for me was a diary. It wasn't necessarily keeping a note on how I was feeling, but it included that. What it basically was buying a diary that was like an A5 book, and it had like a page per day. And I just had the intention of writing stuff in that book every day. So whether it be how I'm feeling, whether it be just some stuff that happened that day, whether it's a piece of news, whether it's a bit of creative writing, or whether it was literally just writing, I am writing, I'm trying to fill this page up, I don't feel like writing, but I'm going to keep writing. Writing words is nice, writing words is good. And this had more of a creative element to it. It was like getting in the practice of learning to write and hopefully, get into that more creative space. But it was a really good, useful place to process my emotions sometimes as well, and remember stuff that happened. But it was a good way to process emotions, and it is something. I mean, all of these things really are things I'd like to return to doing, but that is something I'd like. A good writing practice daily would be wonderful. There's another one here which I didn't do for as long, I'd say, but I really enjoyed it. It was really effective. I found it really effective. And I think some of these you can probably tell are a lot more practical, and you could maybe call them more scientific. And some of these are maybe more spiritual sounding. And maybe this one sounds more spiritual, but I think that those things can go hand in hand as well. They don't have to be distant. Like nature can feel a very spiritual place for a lot of people, but you can also talk about, I think they're fractals, I think that's what they're called, which is specific like shapes that you only see in nature, which has a proven effect to reduce your cortisol levels and make people less stressed. And you don't even necessarily even have to be in nature to see it. Like an image of those, on a computer screen or something has shown to have not the same, but similar effects of reducing cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So, science, spiritual, I don't mind where it's coming from as long as it's effective. And I started off at one point, as I'd wake up, I would first thing straight away, I'd go, I had the luxury of a back garden, which made this a lot easier. Front garden or being outside where more people would see, I might struggle a bit more being on show. But put my hands on the ground is what I would do. I'd go out and I would, in fact, that was the last thing I would do. I'd go and stand outside and I'd feel the coldness of my body and the slight discomfort of it. But I'd just been in bed, so you've got the body warmth, so your body will be fine as long as you're not out there for too long like that. And it's good to sometimes feel a bit of discomfort, to remember that you're alive, and it brings you into the present moment more. So you go out, present moment a bit more, in the comfort, in the cold, slightly discomforting. And I'd take a few deep breaths, and as I breathe in, I'd raise my arms, slowly up, like holding them straight, and I'd have them as like, creating a big circle, and they would be in the air. And then when I breathed out, I would lean forwards and my arms would come down, to basically be trying to touch my feet in a sense. They're reaching for the feet, but they're not, trying to grab them. And a few deep breaths with that sort of movement was great. And then after that, I could, I'd say like morning sun and morning earth. And part of that is because it's a little bit silly, isn't it? It's a bit silly to just say it, like to say morning to the birds. But because it's silly, it sort of disrupts any kind of like serious attitude you might have in your head, like, oh, I've just had this bad dream, and oh, now I've got to get up and go to work, and I've got, if I brush my teeth, don't brush it too late, because then you might be late, and I don't want to have to rush in. Like all of these thoughts that you might be processing, you do something silly, a little bit disruptive, and just go, morning birds, how you doing? Oh, look at you flying over my head. Morning sun, morning trees, morning ground, morning breath air, morning fresh air, morning me. Like there's a silly nature to it, and the silliness like can, create a bit of fun, create a bit of laughter. So that was quite good. And then I would get down on my knees and lay down. If you do yoga, there's basically in child's pose, which is basically having my knees on the ground and they're bent over. So my knees are squashed up together and my belly's over it, and I'm laying, my palms down on the ground and my head on the ground, and I'm feeling the ground and I'm thinking, I'm here. It's another day. I'm feeling the coldness of the ground. I'm live, like I'm here for another day. And then I can be grateful for the earth that I'm on, because you could call this a spiritual idea, or you could call it a practical idea, again, like a scientific idea. I breathe in air, I breathe in oxygen, but I wouldn't be able to breathe in that oxygen if it wasn't for the trees that I'm surrounded by, because they produce the oxygen. So like they're there, they give me this facility to breathe, and the water is part of the atmosphere. It rains down and it goes into the streams, and this helps the plants grow, which helps me breathe, but it's in this continual cycle, and this helps me drink and stuff like that. Like the planet that I'm on I'm not disconnected from it. It's not a separate thing to me. I am part of it. Like we are reliant on each other in a way, and I am reliant to it. I'm really reliant to this planet. So just a moment to like recognize, thanks to the trees and to the nature. And it was really helpful, and it was really nice and sort of calming. So that was a practice I had that day. So you got the sort of coldness and the fresh air and out in nature, and the slightly silly angle to it, and then the gratitude that was in there as well, showing a bit of gratitude. So it's got a mix of things that I mentioned about in there before, but it was good. It was great fun. The garden is probably not as covered now as it was once before, but it was really nice. So a lot of these, I think, are dealing with things mentally, like emotionally. A lot of these are ways of processing that. The ones I'm going to talk about next are a lot more physical, but I think the physicalness of them as well helps with that processing too. And I'm going to start off with everyone's favorite, your friend of mine, cold showers. I know. If that doesn't float your boat, I understand. It really didn't float my boat for a long time too, but then I really got into them and I fell out of the habit, and I want to get back there because it was great. It was really great. Not the first bit of it, but it was really lovely. Just having a cold shower in the morning. Again, it's similar to the last one. It helped break out of that frustrated place that I would be in. And I'd be able to then, exist like in the present moment. It brings you to the present moment because the body basically, and I think this is scientifically proven, the body basically goes, oh, fucking hell. And then you have to, your mind goes, what? Oh, fuck it. And then you have to cope with that, and it makes your breathing go for fuck's sakes, all right? And then, your brain is going, what are you doing? The fuck are you doing? I was toasty, I was warm, I was safe, I was secure, and now you just fucked all of that up. What the fuck are you doing? At least that's from the official academic report that I read. That's what the science tends to point towards. But it brings you to the present moment. It gets the blood flowing throughout the body. Obviously, you don't want to be in the cold water too long, and there's different health reasons why some people might not want to do it. So this isn't a recommendation. This is just something that worked for me. But the blood was flowing through the body. It helped me access my breath. I was very much present in the moment. I was living in that discomfort. But eventually, there's a feeling that comes from your body, it's there, it's alive, and it's awake. And when you come out of the shower, just wired and I'm here, I'm really fully present. And it's I'm ready for whatever's going to happen. It's just there. It's a really great thing to do. I really enjoyed it. I didn't ever do any more than 2 minutes. And I started off, in fact, with little increments of 30 seconds. And I thought, 30 seconds isn't going to kill me. I'm not going to do any significant damage after 30 seconds. And also, I can step out after a little bit more than that. It's just going to be really uncomfortable and really unpleasant. But that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be in that space. That sort of feeling is inevitable in life anyway. So having a little practice of being uncomfortable, really helped set me in that frame of mind. It was great. I think this goes without saying, and maybe I won't go too much into it, but cold showers really, for most people, especially in the Western world, a lot of the circles of mentioning Rangan Chatterjee, Rich Roll, all this stuff, cold showers is mainly coming from Wim Hof, isn't it really? And so it would be silly to not mention his breath work as well, those deep breaths, and that was really good to do that. I'm not sure I ever fully got it right. I'm not sure I really ever fully, and I didn't ever do it long enough to really reap the benefits, but just the practice of doing it each time was really opened up the lungs. One I do like though doing, I still do this to this day every now and again, or at least a version of it, is the breath of fire, which I think I'll link to Russell Brand. I think I'll have to double check. You'll see if I found it or not, but it should be in the show notes in the description. But I think Russell Brand did a thing about this before, a talk about this, but it's basically a type of breathing in which you do a couple of deep in and out breaths to clear and then you are breathing in and out rapidly, but you are focusing, I think, on the stomach. So you are pulling the stomach in when you're breathing in and pushing it out when you are breathing out. And it's a rapid kind of, that kind of breath that you are doing, while simultaneously you have your arms out, straight out, facing at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock basically, and they are going clockwise or anti-clockwise, I can't remember. And you are breathing like that, and you're going through that, and you're pushing it to a bit beyond where it feels comfortable, but you obviously don't want to pass out or faint. So you do that, and then when you get to the end of where you feel like you are at your threshold, deep breath out, you just let all the air out, let it all go all out, and then raising up and raising your arms above your head, you take a deep breath in, deep sharp breath. You fill your lungs up and everything up as much as you can, and you hold that breath. And when you're holding that breath, you can feel all this movement going on in the body. I can feel it anyway, the body feels like it's warming up. I do this especially when I'm in the cold. If I'm in the cold, I try not to wear too many layers. I try to do this breath, and it warms me up from the core, and it can really wake me up as well. And that's a really good practice to be in. I really liked that. So the breath of fire, I'll see if I can find the link. I hope I can, from Russell Brand showing you how to do it. The last few that I will go through before getting to the end is yoga practice. I don't know if you've heard of that before. That's something, their monks do, but also them, them trendy people do. Why are they doing it? They're not monks, are they? Why are the trendy people doing the yoga? They're not monks. It's a really great practice, and you know what? I think I would like to invite somebody on, my yoga teacher, I would say, but also my bloody good friend, Rich. I want to invite him on, and we will talk about yoga in more detail, because I will make a hash of it. I'm sure I will fuck up, and he will be able to describe it much more eloquently than me. But I was having a weekly class, and then at one point I was having, I was in a place where I could do it in the mornings as well. A brief yoga flow just to come into the day, and it's just, the body feels better, the mind feels better, the mind feels more present, the breath comes more naturally. It's lovely. It's really good. I love it. Another one as well that I get, I'm sort of prefacing some of these with the spiritual element and the scientific element. It's mainly because I'm a little bit worried. I don't want people to hear the word spiritual and maybe either equate it to religious, which, has a lot of issues, but also relates it to, woo-woo and things, that sort of language, that sort of instant dismissal. I don't want people to instantly dismiss things that could potentially work for them just because of what they interpret spiritual to mean when they don't quite understand what my interpretation of the word spiritual means. I think I've threatened this most of the podcasts I've done, but I am going to do a podcast specifically on spirituality, what I understand it to mean, its links with science, and like my whole understanding of it through that. But all of that was prefacing me, this was sort of a meditation as well. And in fact, it's a meditation on the Headspace app, which I don't phrase it this way, but it's sort of going through the chakra points or just specific points in your body that feel like, I struggle to know what to really say about it. I read a book and it really helped. In fact, that it was Rich, the yoga dude, who I think that's what he's going to be officially known as from now on. Rich the yoga dude, because it's, it's kind of cool, isn't it? It's a cool way in. It's like, hey guys, don't worry, like I'm not one of those fuddy-duddy old, those bloody monks doing it. I'm the yoga dude, man. I'm like chilling with you guys. Like, well, you watch Netflix? I watch Netflix because I'm a dude, but I yoga as well. I'm a yoga-y dude, and I'm chilled, man. I'm well chilled in it. It made me feel really good in it, and it helped open me up to certain things, and it makes me also recognize that I hold a lot of tension in my stomach and in my solar plexus, and that I don't feel very grounded on my feet, which also relates to, I'm seeing a musculoskeletal therapist, and there's definitely problems with my posture and the way I stand and the way I stack myself on my feet. So it has that practical element too, but like being able to see it and being able to feel it, really feel it in the body was really helpful and useful. So those are really good things to do. I really got a lot out of that. The last one again comes from the yoga dude again. He invited me to a cacao ceremony and 5 elements dance. And I'd never been to one of those before, and it sounded a bit intimidating and scary and just like out of my comfort zone. But I went along and did it, and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful, and it got me. In the mornings, I would go outside, usually just in my pants. Like, it would be naked, but the fence wasn't covering me enough that I wasn't sure if the neighbour looked out, they would see an actual naked man dancing with headphones. Also, it gave me a place to put my podcast, like my phone, so I could have headphones in. But I'd have my headphones in. I'd try and get deeply immersive music. Sometimes it was Tom York. Sometimes it was, what's the name of the band? Shabaka Hutchins from the bands that he's in. My Queen is a Lizard. What's the name of that band? I can't remember the name of the band. Great album. Anyway, it's got this kind of shamanic drum feel, like it's really... really pumping. It's pumping you up, mate, innit? Lots of pumping, pumping, dancing, pumping. It had different flows for different feelings of how I was going through, and I would just let my body move naturally, like however it wants to do, however it wants to dance, however it wants to feel, however it wants to go. I'm doing it now, in fact, and my wrists are going all over the place. My shoulders are getting involved in my back, like my head is sort of moving around, like just letting the body move naturally without judgment and without fear of judgment. It was really good way of getting in a fun headspace as well. Like, it was fun, it was enjoyable, but sometimes it was like helping me process like emotions. Like, if I was feeling a bit angry, I could like let it out in the dance. I could let it come out of me a bit more. Or if I was in a more of a reflective mood, like I could just let it glide and dance. Like, I think this is something that Simon Amstel does as well, to like musicians like Adele and stuff like that. So clearly not as good at music as me. What a judgmental sentence. Oh, look at that. Having a go at Adele there? You bringing down Adele? Oh, God, what are you having a go at Adele for? People can listen to whatever music they want. It's not my place to say. It's not my cup of tea. But, if he does it to Adele, good luck to the man. Good luck to him. Yeah, a bit of dancing in the mornings was great. Outside as well, in the cold was great. There you go. There's them. there's those them. There is also one more practice I haven't spoke about, but I'm going to speak about it now because it's a piece that I'd written before. I'd written out in a sort of long form way, and I'm going to read it to you. Basically, it's a morning practice I did that I got from a Buddhist book, basically, and this is one that really helped ground me, and like it was really genuinely beneficial. And it's one I could do in 2 minutes. One that would take me 25 minutes if I really concentrated on it. It was great. And this is the one where I'm going to read out something that is slightly creative as well. Like it's got a creative touch. It's not just a practical thing. I was trying to, let's face it, I was trying to be a bit funny with it as well. I was trying to have a laugh with it, to be honest. Have a bit of a laugh whilst getting the job done. If anything works for you there, my advice, keep it simple, keep it easy, and see if something works for you, and give it a while. Try to make it consistent, but be kind to yourself if you can't do it. And listen to this. Maybe there's something in this. Until next week, I will say goodbye for now, and enjoy yourselves and live authentically and with love in your heart. There we are. Nice one. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Do remember again that even though I may have mentioned stuff during the podcast, this week it ends here. Next week will be me reading through the morning routine stuff, and there will be an accompanying exercise or practice thing that goes along with that, which I will talk about more next week, I'm sure. Thanks for listening. Share this with your friends. That'd be great. We have a social media, Savage Balance Podcast. We have a Twitter at SavBalPod. We have a website, savbalpod.com. I will update it, I promise. The email address is savbalpod@gmail.com. Get in touch if there's any thoughts you had, anything in particular, this type of content, or you want to ask some personal questions about it, just shoot them over. I'm always here to listen. Subscribe, comment, rate, review. That'd be great. The artwork is by Dolly Gray. The music is by Danny Tonks. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.